Hey guys, Andre No One Will Ever Know My Last Name, back with the second to last tier list explanation for this series. Now before I jump into anything Destroyer related, I'd just like to give a massive thank you to the enormous amount of positive feedback I've been receiving for these last couple of videos. I honestly have never seen so much positivity with so many people helping each other out in the comments section. It's just some incredible stuff, and I hope that I can keep delivering good content to you guys. And with that, let's go and start. I may be a little bit sleep deprived and addicted to anime, but this time I'll be covering everybody's favorite Kawaii Onegai Oni-chan, lollies, excluding a couple of ships. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Grenville. The Destroyers. And as a disclaimer, my literal name is FBI Open Up on the Lexington server. I am fully aware of what I'm saying, and I swear to God I'm not a lolicon, I'm just a respecter of good ships. Okay, please don't hurt me, bye. Now, before I go into the individual reviews, let's go over some Destroyer basics. Now, they are a class of ship known for their high evasion but low health. Now, their health drawback is not really that much of an issue for most of the game, as you can find them to be able to survive fairly well. And as an added bonus, they are the lowest oil costing ship, making them very efficient for farming fleets as well as providing solid damage overall. All of the starter ships are destroyers, and they perform incredibly well, so it would be in your best interest to start leveling them up. Also, there's one more important thing to know about this class. I differentiate them into two different subcategories. Now, there is the torpedo-reliant one, who is usually best equipped with a fast-firing, low-damage gun for maximum skill proc rate, and they almost always have more than 400 plus torpedo when they're level 100 plus, and they have skills that increase torpedo or just don't have any firepower boosting skills. And finally, they are the best for manual play, since you can go and take out key ships and wipe screens with a very nice and well-placed torpedo shot. Now, the second subcategory is the main gun and firepower reliant one, which is usually equipped with a slightly slower firing but much higher damage gun for maximum FP damage output. Almost always they have more than 100 plus firepower when they're level 100 plus, and they have skills that increase their firepower, reload, crit rate, and stuff like that. They are good for autoplay, and they provide consistent DPS through their main gun. If you're unsure, then you can just put your destroyer in a couple battles, and just make sure to keep track of who and what is killing the enemies. If they barely do any damage with their main gun, but do significant damage with their torpedoes, they are torpedo reliant. If it's mostly the main gun fire, then they are firepower reliant. If you do want a guide on the best guns for each of these subcategories, please do leave a comment down below. I want to see how many people are interested in this kind of stuff. And moving on, let's go and start with the tier list. In tier 0, the first place goes to none other than Kitakaze, who is the only research destroyer who is a firepower focused ship, and her nickname is the Machine Gun Lolly. This is because she carries an extra main gun just like Sandy Retrofit, who boasts an insane firepower just like Number 1 herself. That means that they have basically 2 times the fire rate as a normal ship, and being a PR ship, she has very good stats, which is better than an SR ship. Now that gives her an edge already over most of the ships in this category, well actually all of them, and combined with her extremely useful skill that makes her main gun damage immune to armor typing, she has no weak matchups and will be able to deal monstrous DPS to every single enemy regardless of who they are. And as an extra added bonus, she has an extra skill that launches a torpedo barrage after the first 10 seconds if she's placed in the leftmost position, and will launch another barrage if 10 of her non-skill torpedoes connect. Now really, nothing can stop this Machine Gun Lolly from dealing out massive amounts of damage. She's definitely deserving of first place in this category. Now, one of my favorites, Ayanami Retro is in second place, and her nickname is the Torpedo Demon. As you can see by the nickname, she is a heavily torpedo focused destroyer, and on the English version you can get her by fully limit breaking all 3 other starter ships, who are Javelin over here, Z23, who is also known as Nimi, and I will go and address her as Nimi throughout the video, and finally Laffey. Once you do that, you will be able to go and get her, and she is a very good ship, and you should definitely start leveling her up if you do have her. She has the highest torpedo stat in the entire game. She has a skill that has a chance to activate every single time she fires her main gun, which drastically increases her torpedo stat to out of this world bonkers death bombs. This is why she's better off with a fast firing and low damage gun such as the blue .76 AA gun, and she will have more chances to proc her skill as well as her very solid retrofit barrage that deals very nice HE damage if you do have a fast firing gun like the .76 AA gun as previously mentioned. Her retrofit skill has a chance to activate every 20 seconds, and that fires even more torpedoes while also raising her evasion. Now overall, she's amazing for manual play, and because she can just clear out everything with her torpedoes, but she might be a little bit less good for autoplay because if her torpedoes miss, then you miss out on almost all of her damage, and she's a fantastic ship, she's easy to get, highly recommended, and you should definitely get her ASAP. Now, third in this category is the only event ship, who is Tashkent, and she is the only person that you cannot get in the current permanent build pool right now. She is from the recent Russian event that has just ended, and she is another firepower focused ship. She summons an ice fairy named Snezhinka. I really don't know how to pronounce this is my best guess. It's basically another main gun that shoots slowing ammo, and since you see how good Kitakaze and San Diego Retrofit are due to their extra main gun, you can definitely expect Tashkent to go and deal out some massive damage too. Now along with that, she has skills that increase her firepower, and it increases even more every single time she sinks a ship during each sortie. Yes, sortie, not sortie, sortie. I said it right, guys. Please be proud of me. The slow is always useful as well, since it slows down fast bosses, and additionally she has a skill that buffs her main gun efficiency and accuracy by a little bit if she uses a Russian gun. It's not necessarily needed for her, but it is an option if you do have it. Overall, she's an incredible ship. If you do have her, definitely level her up. She is definitely going to aid you in providing massive amounts of damage throughout your journey in Azur Lane. Now in fourth, we have Laffey Retro, who is the all-around balanced starter ship, the non-PR machine gun lolly. She is firepower focused with okay torpedoes, because it's kind of like the middle ground between all the starter ships. All of her skills contribute to buffing her even further. Her first skill has a chance to buff her firepower, reload, and evasion by 40%. She has a second retrofit skill that can be combined with the first that provides a whopping 200% extra reload, while also launching a very nice AP ammo barrage with a couple of fast torpedoes. Now, you would want to put a high damaging gun on her to go and maximize her damage output. The reload buffs compensate for the slower firing time, and overall she is a super good destroyer for clearing out any kind of content. She is used in any kind of fleet, and she's going to be good in any kind of fleet. Now in fifth on tier 0 we have Nimi, who is the all-in firepower focused starter ship. So instead of having kind of balanced stats like Laffey over here, who has average torpedoes and pretty solid FP, she is all in for her firepower stat. Her torpedoes are basically pieces of plastic that barely do any damage, but her firepower is monstrous. This means that she performs amazingly well when her gun hits against light or medium armor targets, but this means that she can struggle against heavy armor because the HE ammo that almost all the destroyers have has a very bad damage multiplier against heavy armor. Now this one bad matchup drops her down a little bit, and this is why she's in 5th place, but she has a skill that buffs her firepower tremendously, and her retrofit skill can set her main gun critical chance to 100% for 10 seconds, which boosts her DPS tremendously once more. She is another amazing ship, but overall she is overshadowed by the other 2 starter ships above her that can cover up their weak matchups. To end off the tier 0 list, we have one of my personal favorites once again, and some of yours too, YUKIKAZE-sama NANODA. Bow to your queen. She has amazing skins and a wonderful wedding skin. She is another torpedo focused ship just like Ayanami Retrofit up here. And most importantly, she gets most of her damage actually from her EX barrage, which is why it's extremely important that you get a fast firing gun for her, because it launches 4 extra torpedoes every time it procs, and it's her main source of damage. So you would need that fast firing gun so that she can activate her barrage as many times as possible. And along with that, now moving on to her skills, She has absolutely insane survivability, arguably the best in the entire game. Her first skill reduces damage taken by the backline, and it also heals a backline ship by 10% if their health ever drops below 20% once per battle. So she's like a mini healer ship too. And then her second skill is what makes her extremely tanky. There is a 25% chance that she will reduce incoming damage down to literally 1. Literally 1 damage. It means that 1/4 of the time she is virtually taking no damage from external sources. I think that she's just not placed any higher because she doesn't have any offensive capabilities from her extra skills, but she is actually insanely good at dishing out good damage while also being arguably the best tank in the game. If you haven't pulled her in the permanent blight pool yet, they have added her in, so you should definitely try her luck for her because she is infinitely good for your team. You'll definitely be happy when you get her, I promise you. Now, starting off in Tier 1, we have our collab girl, Shirakami Fubuki, who is a very cute Hololive collab fox. She has a special ability that can sing Scatman, not really. If you ever look it up, look up Shirakami Fubuki Scatman, very cute. And she is a very interesting destroyer. I feel she's kind of like a hybrid between the two types that I listed above. She has dive bombers instead of an AA gun, meaning that a destroyer has airplanes, which is interesting. Now she has airstrikes because she has dive bombers, and that's useful for clearing torpedoes and bullets off the screen. She has extra aviation if you do need it for a hard mode map requirement. She's kind of like a mini carrier, but a vanguard and with destroyer stats. She's more heavily focused on torpedo reliance, but she also doesn't really have a skill that needs a fast fire rate gun to proc, so you could slap a .127mm gun on her and you'll be totally fine. And especially with her skill that buffs firepower and torpedo, she's kind of good in every single aspect, with good firepower, good torpedo, and even good aviation. She's kind of like a jack of all trades that can do a lot, but she is outperformed by the people that specialize in each of these different subcategories. But overall, Shirakami Fubuki is super versatile, but does not do her job exceptionally well in any kind of category, which is why she's in Tier 1. Lastly, for the ships that I'm going to cover in this list is one of my favorites, or actually my favorite, the last of the starter ships, and in my calm objective opinion, the cutest and the best of the 4. Please don't start a flame war. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but I feel she's a sweet cinnamon bun that is always genki and happy that her Shikikan is always around for her. However, sadly, she is not as good as the other starters, because she focuses heavily on her evasion stat, which boasts an insanely high stat for some odd reason, and to go and compensate for that, her other stats are very less desirable. She has 500 less health than Laffey and Nimi, below average firepower for a firepower focused ship, but very average torpedo for a very torpedo focused ship. And as Azur Lane of course is focused on more damage and finishing the battle faster, Javelin Retrofit suffers from the same thing Prinz Eugen suffers. I call it the Prinz Eugen effect. They do not contribute any extra DPS to finishing the battle quicker. And as stated earlier in a previous video, tankiness is not valued not nearly as high as DPS in this game. Please buff Javelin so I have a good reason to use her. Other than that, unlike most ship classes, the rest of the ships in this list can be overshadowed by one of the other ships that I've already talked about in this video. For example, Yudachi over here in Tier 2 is sadly, as I would not like to admit it, a less power Laffey Retrofit over here in Tier 0. So, as this is the case, I will not be covering the rest of Tier 1 as I usually would do. I'm also not really going to do any other notable mentions for the same exact reason. Now, the best part, and easily the best part of destroyers that outweighs like every other part of them, is their accessibility, as I stated earlier. All of the Tier 0 ships can be obtained right now, excluding Tashkent, through map drops or the gacha. There is no reason to really use a lower tier ship unless you love their design, of course, because there are always better alternatives that are easily obtainable, namely these people right here. Heck, half of Tier 0 are starter ships. Like, there's barely any event barriers blocking you from getting these amazing ships compared to like carriers or battleships. you can definitely get your hands on these tier 0 destroyers, and they will be infinitely better. So because of this, there is almost no reason to ever not level up at least one of these people, because they're just insanely good. They cost less oil than any other ship class, they can have ridiculous DPS, they reduce ambush chance, and they're kawaii as heck. So what are you waiting for? Launch Azur Lane and grab yourself a destroyer today. I'm like an advertisement. And as always, leave a like or consider subscribing if you found my content helpful. It tells me that you guys like the stuff and encourages me to keep on posting even more videos. If you have any other questions or on any ships covered in this tier list or any other ship that I did not cover, feel free to leave a comment below. I always try to do my best to respond to them. Other than that, the next video will be a very quick one discussing the submarines on the tier list. Be sure to stay tuned with that, have a great day and see you next time. Bye guys!